Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. I can't believe we're on the series finale of Moriarty the Patriot. Damn. I'm really sad about that, actually. It feels like we just started this series and we're already at the end of it. So, Huckleberry's like, I'm sad too. So, he's joining me on this, aren't you, buddy? Yeah, you're sad too about Moriarty, aren't you? Yeah. So, I did a poll on Patreon to talk about the manga. I said I would tell you all about it. So, my thoughts with the manga are, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so I polled Patreon, and I'll show you all the votes for it, but the resounding vote was that as I'm finished with this series, I am going to move on to another series after this, and in the meantime, I am going to slowly start to read the actual manga itself and catch up. I'm in the process of reading Bungo Stray Dogs on my own, and a couple other series in preparation for those later on this year, but I am going to make time to read the Moriarty the Patriot manga and start buying those and purchasing those and reading them and taking notes. And then when I'm done catching up with where the manga is now, I will do a soapbox about it and talk about the manga in relation to the show and all that fun stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll get to move on to another anime, and this will probably be something I work on in the background. And then hopefully later by this summer, I'll have like the video up with everything on there. So that's my plan anyway, is to read the manga for Moriarty the Patriot and then do a soapbox about it. So I'm pretty excited, right? And we get to start a new show after this week. So tears for Moriarty the Patriot. I am sad. I have heard that there's some OVAs coming out in April, though. Apparently in April, there's 2 OVAs coming out. That's what I've heard. So I'm excited if those get released on streaming. I'll definitely react to those. Absolutely. So that's exciting. I'm curious to see what those OVAs will be about. Who knows? But that's a pretty exciting news. So yeah, I am going to plan a live stream for Moriarty. We haven't had a live stream in forever. So I'll have some information in the community post and on Patreon about the live stream. I definitely want to wait until after this episode has aired on YouTube before I do the live stream so that everybody on YouTube can see the reaction to this season finale. And then we can talk about the show as a whole together in the live stream. Be a fun time. Haven't done one of those in a while, so it'll be good. But yeah, so we're at the series finale. These last 2 episodes have been amazing. I loved episode 22 and 23. They're great. I felt really bad about episode 22. I cut off part of my discussion when I saved the final copy, and that's the version I backed up, and I cut part of it off. I'm really sad. So I'm now double checking all of my reactions to make sure that doesn't happen again. But yeah, so we're at the season finale of Moriarty the Patriot, and William he's done all these horrible things, thinking that he needs to die. And everyone around him is like, no, you don't. And they're all planning to save him, especially Sherlock. But what will that look like? How is Sherlock going to save him? How is William getting out of this? Like, the Lord of Crime has to die at some point. That's the whole point. So how are they going to do it? So I'm thinking they're going to try to fake Moriarty's death somehow. But how they do it, I'm curious. Because Lewis brought the idea up of them faking Moriarty's death, and William seemed against it. So, I don't know how that's going to work. But anyway, we're going to watch this season finale and then talk about it, and then we'll have a live stream probably this weekend and do a live stream for the series as well to kind of round out things before I go off and read the manga, and then come back and do a soapbox about it later on and tell you what I've learned. So, with that being said, I'm really excited. I'm really sad that this is the last episode for now. But it is comforting knowing we have the OVAs to come. So there is that. But we're going to start episode 24 of Moriarty the Patriot, the final problem, Act 2. And see what happens. And we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. That's a satisfying conclusion to that. Our murder detective boys. Oh my god. Okay. I'm really curious how the manga goes after this. I'm assuming the manga is different and changes some things, but or maybe the mysteries carry on. Maybe the mysteries carry on once they're in Switzerland. God, this was satisfying. This whole series has been so good from start to finish. It's like, what if Sherlock was an BL with Moriarty? And that's this series, right? Oh my gosh. What if Sherlock and Moriarty were a thing? Canonically. Pretty much. Bros don't write letters like that to each other. I'm sorry. Oh my god. This was great. I hated how much Funimation lagged in this. I'd be in the middle of a scene being like, don't you dare stop. And I have to refresh it. Ugh. But this episode was so good. It was so good. Oh my God. So we cut back to them basically meeting up, and William just saying that he wants this tale. He wants his whole life to be brought to a close, and asks Sherlock to do it. And Sherlock's like, why me? Why'd you ask me to do it? And it's convenient for Sherlock because he said he's going to save him. And then he won't tell him. And he gives him like a time, like, here's the final location and time. And also another place indicated, which will provide hints towards further answers that you need. Like basically showing you everything that I've been doing and leading up to this crime. And William wants Sherlock to kill him because he's like, I want you to take me out with your own hands. He's like, why'd you pick me? My role was nothing more than being the detective who solved the riddles you set up. So why did it have to be me? And William doesn't want to admit it till he writes the letter. It's like, It's kind of reminds me of Modao Zushi, when in Modao Zushi, the character Wushin, he tells Wanji, he's like, well, if I have to die, I want it to be at your hands. And I'm like, shut up. I just can't. God, everything wrapped up really, really conveniently in this episode, but it's fine. I'm here for it. I'm going to be very excited to see in the manga how everything is expanded upon and how that all changes, right? But I love the idea on this that Sherlock looks so sad. Like we cut to him in Watson, and he's like, I guess I'm gonna go find these clues. He's like, and he wants Watson to go with him, right? And Watson's like, I'm not gonna be your emotional support dog for this scene. I've got my own business. I got a wife now. I got things to worry about. You clearly should go find out. I love that he's like, he asks him to come with him, and he says no. And I like that Watson, for once, Watson's like, no, you're the one he delegated to this, Sherlock. Clearly, right? He's like, he's your friend and you're going to save him, right? So you should do whatever you think is right. I love that. And I love that Sherlock, he's so surprised for a second. He's like, okay. It's great. Watson's like, no, this is your deal, right? And I love this scene. I thought for a second, we go through all these different parts of the Moriarty mansion, and I got a little freaked out at first because of the table, where you see the table and chairs where they had the big map for the Noatic planned out, and you see the table and chairs. I thought the table was covered in blood at first. I thought it was blood, but it's actually just a red oak table, and it's got the gasoline all over it. I thought for a second, though, it was blood, and I was like, oh God, have they killed more people? And then we find out, no, they're just torching the place. They're just going to burn down all the evidence. And they just went through and just ran gasoline over everything to burn it all down. Yep, and you see, it's so sad because the animation's beautiful here. Like the design and the detail is beautiful, but you see in that moment the curtains and everything. You see all the places that we've been in throughout this season. You see the place where Moran and Bond had their moment and everything. And it's just about to be burned up. And you see the couch that William sat on, everything. And Moran, I love this. Moran's like, I intended to die with him. Like, he's like, to atone for my crimes, I intended to die alongside him. I think we all did. We all went into this thinking we were like a suicide squad. We were just doing this for the betterment of the country. And then we were going to die, and that was going to be it. And William decided to take our crimes upon his death as well. William decided he wasn't going to let them die. He was just going to take the brunt of it all. Yeah. Which is to say, he's telling us to live on. He wants them to live on and do good. And so he's like, what are you planning to do with your life, Albert, in all of this? And Albert's like, we should do only what those who are left behind can do. And that's take up the cross, take up the burden, do what his brother could not. I love that. He's like, even though I cannot bear the cross with him at this moment, I can take it up afterward as much as needed. So he's like, I'm going to basically take on the responsibility and get myself locked up for my brother's crimes because that's all I can do. My brother's dying for me, so I have to live on and do what I can. And I love that Moran's like, take up his cross, huh? And that like spurns him to take part in like, to help out the town later on. But then, yeah, so basically them burning down the mansion Albert burning down the mansion starts the fire, and then Fred starts the other fires in the abandoned part of the slums, and that leads to London burning. And that leads to the moment where they go and find the nobles to try to help out. And it's all been building up to this moment. They've been building and building everything and then blaming it on the Lord of Crime, like building all these moments up. And I feel sad because in this moment, Albert's alone. Albert's by himself in this moment. Like he dials back to the speech that William as a kid gave him, saying about how the devil is going to be taken out and then the curse will be lifted and the country will be beautiful. And you're a nobleman, wouldn't you like to see something like that? Yeah. And it's like he planned this from the start, from that moment. And it's like Albert's realizing really just how deep this all went. He's like, you were going to basically use us and then take all the brunt yourself from the moment this all started, didn't you? And your plan's never been altered. You anticipated this outcome from the beginning. It is sad because Albert and Lewis in the end are kind of by themselves. It is sad that they're alone, but they knew this was going to happen. So it's like they're alone, but they're alive and they're able to do something, right? So yeah, all the new Fred starts all the fires in the abandoned buildings and they blame it on the Lord of Crime. And then Sherlock shows up back here and that's where Jack greets him. And I love that Jack's like, all right, here you are. And then they give him the no-attic plans, everything to show like all of the different details, mapping out all their schemes and everything, all the things that would indict them. There we go. They're the criminal plans drawn up by Master William. And this note is for you. God, this letter, this is a confession letter. It is just a straight up confession. And I absolutely love this scene. It's so damn good. But his letter to Sherlock, oh my God. And the animation on it, Dear Sherlock Holmes. Oh, and him holding the letter. The animation on this scene is beautiful. As you are aware, I plan to assume all the responsibility of this plan onto myself. It is my firm belief through this plan that the hearts of the citizens of this country will change slowly but surely. So it's reaffirming Sherlock's notion that he is a Robin Hood figure. This was all done for the sake of the city. And I love that he's reading it by the firelight there. I will personally not be able to see where this will lead, but I would like to ask a favor from none other than you, Sherlock Holmes. And his face, Sherlock's face looking so sad in that moment reading that letter. Like he's just so torn. Like, why are you doing this, Liam? Amidst this great upheaval, there are certain to be the hushed voices of those seeking help. I'd ask you to please help them. And we see them all in this moment. Oh my God. And him watching London burning and walking away, like the plan's in motion. There's one other thing when I came to call on you. Oh my gosh, you probably posed the question, why me? So he wrote this letter before he even went to go see Sherlock. Like he wrote this letter in advance and had it all set up with Jack before he even left to go visit him. Because he knew that Sherlock would ask the question. It would be difficult to detail the reason in a brief few words. But I found our meeting to be enjoyable enough to forget all about my heinous plan for a moment. Like, he's like, when we first met, he's like, I forgot for a moment everything I was planning. Like, you derailed my whole plans for a split second. And then seeing him laugh, like that big laugh is what he remembers. It felt as though I had found the one person who could understand me. And then Sherlock's eyes opening up, he's like, that's exactly how I feel. If it weren't for our respective positions, I should have liked to converse with you at great length. For some reason, I have considered you to be a long-standing friend. Meaning that, like, if they hadn't been, like, in the situation they were from the start, that is why I want you at my side when I meet my end. God, that is the reason why, for me, it must be you. Oh my gosh, if only we could be reborn into a different world. I got instant, like, winter cicada vibes, like, as soon as I was like, oh my God, no, that's exactly like, and you can take that so many different ways. You can take that to mean, like if we were born in different worlds where it wasn't like, I wasn't the Lord of Crime and you weren't a detective, and we could have just, from the start, like, had this big conversation. If you want them to just be friends, fine. But if you're like, if we were born in a different world we'd be more than just true friends. Then this next time I would hope to be true friends with you. Okay. Oh my God, Sherlock crumpling the letter. And he's like, likewise. I love that. He's like, I felt the same way all this time, you know. You bloody imbecile. Oh! My heart, my fangirl heart I can't take it. My fangirl heart cannot take it, y'all. It's over. It's just over. Damn. And then I love this. I love that we tie into the nobles and they're like, the city is burning. The Lord of Crime is setting fires all over. And they just don't care because they're like, oh, well, it won't reach us. The Lord of Crime. Nothing to worry about. It's all happening in the slums. It surely, fire won't spread and reach us, you know. Ugh. And then I like that he says, the Lord of Crime has been treating us noblemen as a sworn enemy. Surprisingly enough, he appears to be a man of egalitarian ideology. It's like, And it's like, no, he's going to get you involved in all this. I love this. I love Moran's speech about the nobility. And he's like, you all weren't originally nobles. Your ancestors weren't nobles. They just did something good for the city and got into this position because of it. And he's like, and now you're being asked to help out your fellow country too and prove of your noble blood. He's like, if you can't even do that, then you're not worth nobility. No. And it makes sense that, of course, the waterway that they need, the mansions are surrounding it, so they have to go through the gates to get there. Makes sense, right? And then I like that he tries to turn Moran, but it's Moran coming up to help. He's like, no. And it's the idea of this is the cross that he's bearing to help out Moriarty. He's like, this is what I can do as I'm alive. I can help him out by helping these people get this going. And then, yeah, if it hadn't worked, if they hadn't gotten the water and he opened the gate, then the city would have burned entirely, including the mansions. So it's like, duh, just help them out. I love Moran. Moran with his newsboy hat, his newspaper boy hat. This scene's so good. I love Moran's speech. I love it. Based on one's position, what they have to offer. Moran talking about that. Or how they think, how they act, and how they accept responsibility makes them noble. And then we see Bond like leading the people away and helping out. And he saves the girl. And then Lewis helping out. And Lewis, of course, is helping out putting out the fires. And Lewis is just thinking about how Sherlock's going to save William. So it's all going to be fine. Nor by their class, but how they're going to sacrifice for this country. Yeah. I love it. And it gets them all to work together. And then, of course, they somehow save the city and get the fire under control. Barely, as it's a miracle. And Moran's like, it's all according to plan. And then they're all gathered there, and they see the big firing, the light, the shine. And I'm assuming that Moran fired the shot to make the big light up, so they draw their attention to the bridge to see William. I'm assuming that's what he did, because it looked like he had his gun with him. And the Tower Bridge, and there's the Lord of Crime and Sherlock. It's amazing they can see that far in the fog. It's fine though. It's understandable. God, and from the moment Sherlock tries to save him, it's just like William thinks he's just gonna show up to kill him. They're gonna fight and then he's gonna kill him. And he's like, "Yeah, this is your plan, huh?" And to use the fires and have them all gather and send all their negativity to you. The people all consider you to be a devil, Liam. I love this conversation too. He's like, you've drawn all this attention to yourself. You've made yourself into a devil to shoulder all the burden. But he's like, but there's still time. I love this. There isn't a single thing in this world that can't be undone. And William calls him a devil for tempting him. He's like, you're tempting me to live. How dare you, sir? I love it. He's like, this is how you're trying to tempt me to cling to life. And he throws the hat off. And I like that he takes out the sword. You are the devil, Sherlock. He's like, I made up my mind. I had all this planned out. And look at what you've done. Now you're making me have second choices. You're making me have regrets. Second thoughts. And then I like that Moran says, Lewis, are you sure you want to be here? Like, Moran's looking out for Lewis. He's like, your brother could die. Are you sure you want to see this in the moment? And Lewis, I like that he says, I asked Holmes to see to my brother to save his life. And he says, I'm only here to see things through, the conclusion for those two. He's like, I want to see Sherlock save him. I gave up my life for my brother, and I gave my life up for a brother and his ideals. And I like Sherlock does like the move with his legs. He does the move with the legs to counter him. I love it. I love it. Even knowing that his death was assured in the distant future. And then him cutting his fat cheek. I don't mind as long as we could die. I did not mind as long as we could die together. But then brother chose to die alone. And then we go back to Lewis saying that he was always afraid of being left behind because he didn't think there would be a point in living if he was left behind without his brother. He's like, I thought I had no intrinsic value. He's like, I didn't think that my life was worth living alone without my brother. But then he talks about how William reaffirmed his existence, saying, no, there is a purpose for you being here. You do have stuff that you can do. And we see like that little smile Lewis has. It's so sweet. He said, assuring me that I did deserve to be in this world. I love him with the scar. He's like, no matter what conclusion is reached here, I will live and see things through in this world. If anyone, any single person could acknowledge my existence, that would be enough. I'd be able to go on living. So yeah, so Lewis has decided, he's like, whatever happens to my brother, he's like, I'm going to live like you, Moran, and see my brother's will through, because he showed me that people do value my existence and that there is a purpose for me in this world. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then of course, Sherlock has the scar on his cheek, like the cut on his cheek, that's in the exact same location as Lewis's. Of course it is, right? Because they both care for him. And he's like, the same way my brother has for me, then I'm sure. Oh my gosh, that's enough. And then, that's enough. Everybody has seen the side of the detective fighting the lower crime. He's like, so I'm ready to go. He's like, they've seen me fight you, so if I fall, they're going to assume that you pushed me and it's okay. And that look on Sherlock's face, he's so sad for William. William's like, I'm ready. And Sherlock is just, you expect me to just stand by and watch as you go to your death? Is dying atonement that you've come up with for yourself? He's like, you're just doing it to escape from your own suffering. He's like, don't use your death as your escape. If you want to truly atone, then make the harder choice. Live and atone with your life and for what you've done. He's like, it's going back to Hamilton. He's like, living is easy. Like, dying is easy. Living is harder. He's like, don't just throw away your life because you think that's going to fix everything. He's like, no, live. That's the harder choice. It's a more challenging choice. Right? Isn't that right, Liam? I love it. And then, and he's about to reach out and grab Sherlock's hand. He's about to fall for it, right? He's about to go along with it, but then he looks down and sees all the blood on his hand. And he's like, I just can't do it. He's like, no. And then he just lets go. And I love that Sherlock grabbed him. I love that that look on his face, though. Oh my gosh. That look where he just smiles like, no, I'm not giving you what you want. Like bringing it back to Sherlock, and Sherlock's like, don't you dare. And grabbing his leg. I love it. He's like, no. Ugh. You stubborn jackass. Like, why won't you listen to me? Oh my gosh. And then of course, he's like, why would you go so far to save me? And he's like, isn't that obvious? You're my dear friend. The feeling's mutual. And I love it. He looks so innocent. When William looks up at him, he looks like a child again. He looks so innocent. He's like, living may hold nothing but bitterness for you, but the world you are changing is going to be a world worth living in. Don't you want to see that? Don't you want to be a part of that? If you die now, you're not going to be a part of it. You've worked so hard for that. And then, of course, William's like, oh, you mean you came here not as a detective, but as my friend? It's like, no shit. No shit, Sherlock. Yeah. Yep. God, and like he's like just trying to hold on to him the best he can. He's like, you bested me, Shirley. The fact that he calls him Shirley, it's over. It's over. You bested me. He's like, I didn't think I'd figure you to be like that, but you've beat me. And that's when he cuts him in the shoulder so that he'll let go. But it's not It's not enough. Sherlock's like, well then I love that Sherlock's like, I'm not going to let you go without me. He's like, no, I'm not about to let you be the only one who dies. We're going to go down in a blaze of glory together. And I love this, like, there's the fire and everything, and you see, there's not actually fire in the scene because it's on the bridge and there's the water below them, but it's like he's falling into the fires to accept his fate. And Sherlock's like, no. And I love that when he goes after him, I love that amidst all the fire that Liam sees, he sees Sherlock and he's like, I'm trying to see what he saw in his eyes. It was like a big white bird. Like a white bird. And he grabs Sherlock and grabs and holds his head. And then falling into the fires, into the water. And I love in the sunlight. And this is what made me think that maybe they died for a second, is because it's almost like they're flying through the sky when they're going through the water. And him saying, Liam, let's live. We both have to live. And you think maybe they are dead, right? Maybe that's what's happened. And so then we cut to 3 months later. It's been 3 months and they're rebuilding the city and Lewis gets promoted by Mycroft. I love that scene with him and Mycroft. I love it. Albert's relinquished all his fortune to begin a recovery fund. He's kept the Moriarty name out of it. He's gone basically under house. He's been under arrest, right? Taking the blame for Moriarty's crimes. And I love that we get like the Secret Service in Britain, that Lewis gets to be the head of the Secret Service, basically, right? I love that conversation between him and Mycroft, because Mycroft's like, well, he's like, we both loved our brothers and we both want to keep working for this country. And then, of course, Watson writes the story about Sherlock that's circulated back in episode 1. Watson's the author of it. And he keeps Moriarty as a villain and keeps Sherlock as making it to where no one would suspect that these two murder boyfriends are murder boyfriends. No one would suspect, right? But I feel kind of sad for Lewis and Mycroft, because I feel like Lewis and Mycroft both know that their brothers are alive, but they can't see them. And that's the sad part, is that they can't be with them. So I'm curious how the manga handles this. I'm very curious. But Mycroft thanks Lewis and them for staking their lives to save Britain. And we find out that the secret arrangement was that Sherlock pushed on the House of Lords, demanding that they abolish their superiority over the House of Commons. And then Watson's like so surprised in that moment. But yeah, Sherlock was basically like, Sherlock finished the deed. He basically helped finish Moriarty's plan. He helped secure some legislation that Whiteley had worked for to get the job done, right? It's so interesting. And the deal could only be made because of your plan. Yep. And now the Moriarty family joins the Holmes family, and as ones that must bear their crime and punishment towards Britain in perpetuity. Perpetuity. Yep. And so he's like, we now live to pay for our crimes. So we're going to serve the country in repentance for everything that we've done. I'm sad that Albert turned himself in, but I think Albert, he saw this coming a long time ago. And of course, now he gets to be under house arrest with Mycroft. So, Mycroft could go visit him anytime he wants. But we get to see how everybody, he is not alone in living his life in service to his country to answer for his crimes. So everyone involved is now doing they didn't die. William died to save them. He died to save them. So they're all basically serving their country in their own ways to make up for it. And so you see Fred helping out outside with the construction. You see Jack going through the house. You see Patterson taking on Scotland Yard. And then you see Moran out there, like, with his briefcase and stuff, changing the tire on the wagon. And then I love that Lewis James Moriarty, like, with the scar, showing his commitment. The newly created Section 6, charged with protecting the reborn Britain. One that doesn't officially exist and answers directly to Her Majesty, the MI6. I love it. I love it. We're getting Bond involved. We're getting MI6. We're getting all the crime, all the secret organizations in Britain. It's great. I love it. And I was thinking at the end that, because Lewis is like, I believe that William's still alive. which is why I must preserve this beautiful world that brother has created. And it's sad that neither of them get to see him. Like, we see the two ravens perched on the pillar and everything that kind of represents them watching over the world there. And they all have their missions now. And I was like, if they're really dead, I was going to feel really bad. But then we have the final raven, the third raven, flying to Switzerland, where you go to, right? And I also want to make note. I want to make note in this final little epilogue scene here, that the character that walks into the bar, that walks into the tavern here, is wearing William's coat. He's wearing Williams. We're boyfriends. We share clothing. He's wearing William's coat. Yeah, he's wearing the coat that is definitely Williams, and he's given Kirsch to give it a try. And then you're this far into the countryside on business. Are you chasing after a woman? He's like, silly man. Nope, I'm looking for a friend. What sort of friend? Well, let's see. I love this. One that would look up at a spiral staircase and check for the golden ratio. And then he looks over. That sort of friend. And sees William sitting there at the bar. This was so good. This was really good. I loved this so much. The last 3 episodes of this series were so good, but this one got my heart. This one got my heart really hard. I loved this so much. So, oh my God, y'all. I want to fangirl and gush all over it, but... So yeah. So anyway, so we're going to have a live stream probably this coming weekend, after this airs on YouTube. So this is going to be on Patreon a week before. So it's not going to be this weekend for Patreon viewers, but the weekend, when it airs Thursday on YouTube, I'll put a post up on Patreon and I'll put a post on the community tab in YouTube, but we will have a live stream the weekend to talk about the series and just gush about it a little bit, just since we're at the end. And then afterwards, I will start reading the manga and start taking notes and slowly but surely doing that. And then hopefully around April, if these OVAs come out, we'll be able to watch them and react to them, because I'm pretty excited about these OVAs coming out. That should be a good time. But in the meantime, I'll be working on the manga, and then we'll have the OVAs to look forward to in the live stream and talk about this. So, but yeah, in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction. Thank you all so much for watching this series with me. We are going to have a new series replace, a new anime replace this series. It's going to be a retro anime. As I'm recording this, the voting is still going on, but by the time this is put on Patreon YouTube, that winner will be decided. So patrons will know about this pretty soon. But if you're on YouTube, then during the live stream, this weekend when we talk about it, during the live stream, I'll tell what series is going to replace this. But I am sad to leave this series, so that does make me happy that I get to read the manga now, so I'm not totally done with Moriarty the Patriot. But this was a great series, y'all. Thank you so much for voting for it. Thank you for watching with me. And yeah, so we'll start a new series next week. I'll talk in the live stream about what that is. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you all soon more about Moriarty the Patriot. Bye.